Hey everybody, welcome back. So today I've got another do-it-yourself takedown tent heater or pack stove. This one is similar to some of the other ones that I've done in that it uses readily available furnace duct end caps available at your Home Depot store. This one's made out of 14-inch caps. But unlike some of my other stoves, this one has the hardware running top to bottom. This previous stove has the hardware running front to back, and you'll see the fasteners on the front and the hinges on the side. This particular stove, rods running vertically top to bottom, is fairly lightweight in that it incorporates the legs into the rods. Fairly easy to put together as well, which is another thing I like about it, and fairly easy to construct. So to put it together, basically you lock the four sides together, slip on the bottom panel, roll it over onto the other side, slide on that top panel, and then insert the rods, and you fasten the wing nuts. So super easy to put together. As you can see, I'm literally doing it with one hand while I'm holding the camera in the other, and it's really that simple. You can see in this shot the hinges are on the front instead of the side, and that's something that I had to do to basically make the side panels fit together with the front and back panels. Used recessed T-nuts on the top of this, 5/16 hole, 1/4-inch rods, and you get a nice flat cooking surface on the top. So just taking this thing apart, you can see the rods coming up in the corner, and I've got some notches there for the rods just so that they come up nice and cleanly. And to disassemble it, literally the front and back panels just pop off fairly easily, and to assemble just as easy in the reverse direction. The front and back panels in this case are connected to the side panels with basically a slot, which you can see there, and a little bit of a lip on the front and back panel. Just giving you a close-up of that slot on the side there. Really easy to do this, and that's one of the things I wanted to show you in this video. So that's what the slot on the front and back of the side panels looks like. To do that, basically you're taking the factory edge and just folding it over. There's already one bend there, and just by hammering it flat, basically that's all you're going to need to do. Just trying to do it straight as possible. No special tools required here. This is on my back deck with a super cheap hammer. You do that on both ends of the side panels, and that's basically all you need to do. The end panels are 8 inches by 8 inches. I had to cut these out of larger materials because you can't buy an 8 by 8 panel. But I'm going to show you how I did that here. Also a fairly easy thing to do. In a lot of my other videos, I kind of really hadn't shown you how I did this, and so I want to expand on this a little bit here today. So the end panel is going to be 8 inches by 8 inches, but you're going to have to make a fold on it. So I'm measuring the 8-inch finished line, and then 9 inches is going to be the cut line. So there's the fold, the dotted line, and that's the cut line at 9 inches. Once again, this is a longer 16-inch panel, I think. In order to cut this, I'm just making a couple of notches here at both of these lines, and you'll see how I finish that up in a second here. Probably a good idea to wear gloves here, but I'm just so used to doing this without that I'm just kind of diving right in there. But be careful, lots of sharp edges. I haven't shown you any of the filing here, but all of these sharp edges and corners, you're going to want to take a little bit of a file to that and just clean them up. For one thing, to protect your hands and also your equipment. You put this thing in your pack, and you don't want to tear anything up. So just by cutting those notches, it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to make this cut all the way across. You can see the little bit of bending that I'm going to need to do there, but can accomplish it fairly easily. That cut there is not actually all that critical. that edge is just going to be folded over and it's going to be inside the stove anyway. Just trimming off the excess pieces here. The next thing I'm going to do is fold that up at the 8-inch mark. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can buy a sheet metal bender for probably less than 20 bucks at your Home Depot. Just slide that on there and give it a bend. It makes a really nice straight edge. But if you don't want to buy that, the way I had been doing it is just with a pair of really simple pliers that are fairly flat on the nose, and then just go across and make a bunch of really shallow bends. You don't want to bend it all at once. Just make small moves with it and you can actually get a fairly straight edge. Just to clean up this edge here, I'm going to take an old piece of 2x4, just a random piece of lumber that's got a fairly sharp corner on it. If you've got a workbench or something like that, you can use that. But just take an old 2x4 and sharpen up that edge once again with your hammer. Not too critical. It's not a sealing edge really. So just squaring that up makes the whole thing go together a little nicer. And then just a little more flattening out there. So I'm finished, or I end up with a 8-inch by 8-inch finished panel with one factory edge on it there that needs to be straightened out. I'm just going to show you this operation once again because I haven't done it in any of my other videos. You wouldn't need to be quite this precise because essentially I'm going to cut two of these sides down to about 1/2 inch. But I'm going to show you here how I open it up with a screwdriver. Once again, taking my pliers and bending that open, small moves. And then once I've got it bent open, I'm just going to flatten it out a little bit. Also, it wouldn't need to be this flat because you're essentially going to cut most of that off. But I'll just show it to you here. Hammer that out on your 2x4. And one thing I'll show you, I got an old trailer hitch, a piece of steel. If you hit on something hard and flat like that, you can really kind of bang out a lot of imperfections. So that's how I do that. So on this end panel, or both end panels, you want to have two of the sides be about 1 inch and the other two trimmed off to under 1/2 inch so they fit inside the slots that we've created on the side panel. So there I'm just trimming off most of the excess, leaving about 3/8 of an inch up to maybe 1/2 inch on two of the sides. And then I'm just going to trim the corners so that the rods are able to come up in the corner. So just kind of an approximation here. A fairly simple two-cut trim on the longer edges. So there you go, that's a finished end panel. The front and back are basically exactly the same. And then in the front panel, going to go ahead and cut the door. So in this case, the hinges that I used were just something that I had kind of kicking around at home, but they worked particularly well on the front because they're fairly wide. You'll see that I'm just showing you with the tape measure there that you want as wide a hinge as possible so that when you mount this flush, the bolt heads are actually inside the cutout for the door so that the door fits nice and flush. So door dimensions, 3.5 inches, or opening dimensions, 3.5 inches down, 3.5 inches on the door or on the opening height, and 1 inch up from the bottom. 1.5 inches from each side. To mark the cutout for the stovepipe, I'm using a 3-inch pipe. So the easiest way to do this is take a roll of duct tape or packing tape like that, which has a factory 3-inch core, and mark out a 3-inch hole. Drilled a hole in the center, used my tin snips, just cut that around, being fairly precise with that one, and that works just fine. The 4 holes in the corners are 1 inch in from each edge, so, or sorry, 1/2 inch in from each edge, 1/2 inch on center. The hole for the pipe is 1 inch from the back of the stove. Just going to show you here, the first holes that I drilled were a little bit further in, and that didn't work out very well, so I'm telling you, don't drill them there. Drill them about 1/2 inch from each edge. Those are the finished side panels. I actually used these on another stove, that's why they're look pre-used there, just recycling some of my metal. Once again, 1/2 inch in from the end and from the side on those corner holes. And that's the bottom panel. Just the 4 holes drilled in that one, nothing else to do there. Pretty well the final thing to do is to cut your rods. I went with 14 inches on these, and I made them all the same, and